Okay, I think we can start. We've got lots of families in already, lots of parents. We're all excited to get cracking. So hello and welcome to the EtonHouse Parenting Webinar Series. Thank you everyone for joining us, giving us your lunch hour. My name is Bipasha and I will be your moderator this afternoon. I'm also the Chief Marketing Officer for the EtonHouse Group, but more importantly, I'm a parent. My child is 18, by the way, but speaking from experience, I think nurturing positive behavior during the growing up years, right from the time when he was an infant to early years, adolescence, and now adulthood, is perhaps the single most challenging yet fulfilling part of my parenting journey. So I'm therefore very excited to be meeting you all today and also to be hosting this conversation with my colleagues from EtonHouse and E-Bridge Preschools. And this webinar is brought to you in collaboration with the Southwest Community Development Council. So during this session, we will explore various aspects of parenting. And we all know as parents, it is a challenging and a very complex journey. However, it's important for us to understand not just the social and emotional development of young children, but also to a large extent to adapt our mindset as parents and how we can enable both thinking and actions to build sustainable strategies and skills in our children for positive behavior. So it's not just modeling, but ensuring that they have the strategies and skills to be able to demonstrate this behavior going forward, even when they don't have us around. So we have received several questions. So thank you so much. It's always lovely to talk to a group of parents who are so engaged. So thank you so much for that. We will be addressing most of your questions in the sharing today. And also we will be taking them up separately in a Q&A session later. But if you do not manage to get to your questions or you have certain burning, ideas or thoughts that you want to share with us, do type them into your chat because we can therefore address it offline, either an article or separately get back to you. So without any further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce you to the speakers today, starting with Shirlee Lim. She started her teaching career with EtonHouse in 2009 and is now the Vice Principal and EdTech Specialist at our EtonHouse campus at 223 Mountbatten Road. We also have Sharifah Omar, has been in the early childhood profession for 17 years now. She's currently a center leader at E-Bridge Pre-School at Rivervale Crescent and a mother of 2 school-going children. So welcome, Sharifah. Welcome, Shirlee. Thank you very much for joining us today. Right, so we will begin by asking Shirlee and Sharifah to give us a little bit more information about yourselves. Shirlee, if I could request you to start.
Thank you, Bipasha. It's a pleasure to be part of this webinar today. I'm Shirlee, the Vice Principal and EdTech Specialist at EtonHouse Preschool, 223 Mountbatten. It's always been my dream to be an early childhood educator, and having 2 children and being a mother really ignited my deep passion for early childhood education, and I felt that I would really like to contribute to this field. EtonHouse was where I started my career, and I have been with my current center since 2009. I believe very strongly in a competent and strong image of the child, and that interactions are valuable opportunities to connect with the child and support their development and learning. So over to you, Sharifah.
Thank you, Shirlee. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Sharifah. Thank you again for spending afternoon with us. I am Sharifah, currently a center leader of E-Bridge Pre-School Rivervale Crescent. I have been with E-Bridge for about 8 years. I have more than 17 years of experience in the early childhood industry. I have 2 boys, both in primary school, and I raise my children without any helpers and have first-hand experience in developing positive behaviors and overcoming their challenging behaviors. Both children are diverse in their behaviors, and my parenting style has also evolved through their growing years. I have read most of your questions and I relate to most of them.
Thank you so much. So not only do we have 2 very accomplished early childhood educators who are practicing a lot of what we will be talking about today in a day-to-day space, but also 2 mums. So there's a lot of that practice that you probably, or not probably, you definitely must be implementing at home as well. So we've got a lot of real life examples to share with you today. So before we begin, I think let's get to the crux of the matter. And the topic of today's sharing is developing understanding positive behavior and positive behavior guidance and what that looks like. But if you think about our own childhood, and also even today, the word that has often been associated with behavior guidance is discipline. So just trying to understand, the difference between discipline and positive behavior guidance, and what does that entail from a mindset perspective and in terms of our parenting style. So over to you, Shirlee, if you'd like to start with that.
Okay, how about let's first think of definitions, because by defining it, it will help us think about what it really means. So if we look at discipline, it would be the practice of making sure that people obey the rules and do not cause any problems. Whereas if we think about guidance, it would be to help and advise someone on how to do something and how to deal with problems. And if we add the word positive in front of guidance, it would be to do it in a positive and sustainable way. So how about you, Sharifah? What are your thoughts on this?
The word discipline to me may have a negative connotation of punishment. From a controlling perspective, children's mistakes are behavioral errors. Their errors are deliberate, and parents feel that they should be punished. For some, discipline is about rewards and punishment. It is a traditional parenting style where positive behavior guidance, it is supporting the child to regulate his emotions and use it as a learning moment. With positive behavior guidance, we respect and value the child as an individual. I value image of child and see the child as competent and capable. Our perception of children is derived from our own experience and what we perceive in our immediate context and surroundings. For example, if our image of child is someone who is a blank slate, then our interactions with child will flow accordingly. We will then communicate with them as someone we mold rather than a person that brings their own ideas, personality, and competence into the world. This mindset shift of how we view our children is important. It affects the choice of words that we use with our children.
Yes, absolutely. That's right. Because if we think about in terms of positive behavior guidance, then we are using all this as opportunities to meet the long-term goal for the child to develop emotionally. But however, if we are thinking about discipline, then we'll be looking at the short-term goals to get the outcome that we want for a child to behave in a certain way, to conform the way and to do things exactly the way we want them to be.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right, Shirlee. As educators, when we started our training, the first sort of big module for us was the image of child, how we perceive children, because that completely determines how we interact with them, the language we use, the interactions, the conversations that we have with them. If we think of discipline as a way of interacting with young children, we are immediately setting an equation where the adult is more powerful and is someone who looks down on the child. Whereas when you start looking at positive behavior guidance, you're looking at a more respectful relationship, a more reciprocal relationship between an adult and a child. So I think that's where it starts with a lot of us as parents, given our own interactions as when we were children and our perception of childhood, to distinguish and understand the language and therefore translate that into the behavior of how we interact with our young children. So it all flows from there, from the image of child. So I really like how, Sharifah, you mentioned that if we look at children as a blank slate, if we look at children as empty vessels, what typically happens is then we look at us as educators as filling up that vessel, providing information. Whereas if we look at children as competent and confident, we are therefore interacting with them in a similar, respectful, reciprocal way. So that's very critical. And let's, sort of have that as the basis of our conversation today. So how can positive behavior guidance be effectively applied to encourage responsible decision making? Because what we as parents want is that when our children develop these skills, it needs to be something that's more core. It needs to be more intrinsic so that they can apply them in circumstances when we are not there. So for example, if they're having an altercation in the playground or in the classroom, they're having a situation, or wherever else in life, they are able to apply those strategies and skills on positive behavior on their own. So let's start with Sharifah. What would you have to say on that?
With positive behavior guidance, parents will engage children through empowering their child to make choices. This will avoid power struggles that will lead to challenging behaviors. For example, parents may encourage their child to make choices in a healthy snack or pick up their favorite pajamas for the evening or the activities for the day. And self-independence is developed through predictable routines. Having a predictable routine fosters children's independence because they know what's happening next, which helps avoid surprises, struggles, and tantrums. Routines may include cleaning up, bedtime, and bonding time.
Yes, like if we want all this to happen, if we want the children to go through these routines in a positive way, without any challenges, then the key would be a nurturing relationship between a child and a parent. It will be very helpful in building all these skills in children. It will help the child understand that the parent's intention is to help them build the lifelong skills to be independent. And they will then be more willing to accept whatever is being said, whatever suggestions, and to do things on their own, to try to learn new skills despite initial challenges or difficulties, and also know that the parent will be there to support them, that they're not alone. Now, we've identified how important positive guidance is, but challenging behaviors are real. We all know that. That's why we are here today. And I'm sure all the parents here today would have encountered them in their daily interactions with their children. So here, I would like to take some time to invite parents to vote for the behavior that they find most challenging. So, all right, so I can see that, wow, whining, a lot of whining, saying no. So how about for Sharifah, as a parent yourself, what are the most challenging behaviors that you have encountered?
For me, whining goes through the age, like what some of the parents shared. But also, I think as a parent, when my children were younger, they may have meltdowns or throwing tantrum in public spaces. It is one thing to handle tantrums at home, but when the tantrums happen in public spaces, especially when I have no help, I will panic.
Yes, definitely. That must be really difficult because most parents, I would think, would have experienced that. And I think it's important for parents to understand that positive guidance doesn't mean that it's compliance. It doesn't mean that this challenging behavior will not happen at all. Things may not go exactly the way we wanted it. And definitely, yes, we want to survive the moment. We want to look like we are calm and able to tackle whatever, like the kind of behavior, to be able to support the child, that we are able to interact with them positively. But we always have to remember that besides surviving the moment, it's about the long-term goal that we want to achieve, which is to help the children develop these positive behaviors and that it come naturally to them. So as Bipasha has said, do it when we are not there. Be able to behave and think about like what to do, how to deal with the situations. We need to respect that children as individuals, they're still growing, and that they may hold a perspective that may be different from ours.
Going back to when I was a young parent, I wanted to quickly diffuse the situation by saying things like stop crying, and most of the time it doesn't help, or it actually got worse, it escalates the meltdown. I was actually more concerned about stares from the public. I then learned to respect my child. I shifted my perspective and acknowledged his feelings by still giving him space and time to express his emotions and then connecting with him. So even when we are out in public spaces, I give him time to feel cry and have his time and space to express his emotions out. So I would then pause to identify the trigger for the meltdown, as these triggers are what led to challenging behaviors.
Yes, that's right. Because we have to remember that beneath every challenging behavior, there are actually big emotions and different factors. So the triggers can be based on different factors. It can be emotions. We need to seek to understand what really lies under the challenging behavior. And seeking to understand doesn't mean that we accept the misbehavior. So we often will tell the child that we do not like this behavior, but we still love you, and we really want to help you. And we also want to see how we can turn this into an opportunity to support the child's learning and development. So here I would like to share a common model, which is termed the iceberg model. So imagine this, like when you see an iceberg, you only see the tip of it, and that makes up about 10%, while there's a lot hidden under, which is about 90%. So think about this in terms of describing developing challenging behaviors. So what we see on top are the behaviors which have emerged. But however, the cause of these behaviors are hidden, and there's a lot for us to uncover: the emotional causes, the factors, the trigger, what are the things that cause unhappiness, so that we can help the child to overcome each of these causes one at a time. And as Sharifah has explained, it's important to look beyond the challenging behavior and really try to understand what is under it.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything totally makes so much sense. And I think as a parent of a much older child, I realized that, as they start developing their emotional self-regulation strategies and skills, these tantrums also tend to reduce. So you will see that as they get more and more competent in those skills, you will not find so many instances. They're able to articulate what they're going through, what their frustrations and struggles are. So therefore, those instances where you're not able to have those conversations, or there's a breakdown in the communication, those instances will reduce with time. So, and also, I think what we've seen as parents is that sometimes these tantrums don't last very long. They're just 5 minutes maybe, but of course you feel like it's a lifetime when it's happening, but it doesn't last very long. So it's about managing and, to be aware, to be self-aware that this happens, and when that happens, to also know how you respond to these situations. So going forward, we've talked about the different sort of circumstances or certain kinds of behavior that we would like to help our children with. And just before we move on to the next question, I actually wanted to share that we have a ebook called Parenting 101, and we actually identify each of these situations and suggest strategies. So we can definitely send that across to all of our participants today as something that you can take back and read. So what does positive behavior look like? And, can you share some strategies on how we can develop these behaviors during these instances when you know that the child is having a difficult time?
As we delve into the topic of positive behavior, let's unpack the word. What does positive behavior mean? May I invite parents and participants to type in the chat box positive behaviors that you'd like to develop in your children.
Okay, we've got confidence, ability to follow instruction, helpful, emotional agility, curiosity, helping with tasks, self-discipline, empathy, happiness, positive mindset, communication, independence, openness to communicate, empathy, being grateful, being polite, showing empathy, listening, confidence, kindness, attention, and yeah. So we're seeing some words that are being repeated more often than others, and that's to do with the emotional and social competence of young children. I think as adults, we pretty much know how to teach our children how to read and write, but when it comes to developing these very sort of critical elements which will define their character and also define how they address difficult situations in life, we often struggle. So I think all of the responses, Sharifah, have to do with emotional competence. So positive behavior is a matter of developing those competencies as starting at a very young age. Yeah.
There's a lot of soft skills required to help nurture our children. So, like going back to positive behavior, by definition, positive behavior refers to actions and attitudes considered beneficial and respectful and constructive. It involves behaving in a way that promotes kindness, cooperation, and empathy, rightfully as shared by the parents earlier. Children, they are not born good or bad. They develop a range of behaviors, attitudes, and ways of expressing their thinking depending on a variety of factors throughout their early childhood years. It is our role to nurture and guide these behaviors and develop positive behaviors in our children. We help children to behave in positive ways by setting clear limits, modeling cooperative behavior, and dealing respectfully with challenging behaviors. To support positive behaviors, parents or educators need to first ensure that we set realistic and developmentally appropriate expectations for our children.
Yes, setting realistic and age-appropriate expectations for our children is really important, because at the core of each expectation is our image of the child, and that's the image of we hold of the child, as explained earlier, and it influences the way we see them, and the way we engage with them, the experiences we present to them. It's always helpful to remember to go back to the image of the child and then review and think if our expectation is actually reasonable and it fits what we believe and the image of the child that we hold. So just imagine this, think of a library. So when you walk inside the library, do you have the same expectations when you walk inside the children's section as compared to an adult reference section? Do you expect the same level of activity and noise? I would think definitely not, because if you expect the same level of activity and noise, then you would have to do a lot of reinforcement in the children's section, and you can all anticipate how frustrating it will be for the adult and the child. And we need to remember that each child is an unique individual and is different in their own way, have their own preferences, strengths, and capabilities. So for example, a child may be interested in certain books and may be able to focus and engage in that particular type of books. And some children are more able to focus longer. So you really have to think about your child and what he or she is able to do, and then set realistic expectations to match the environment that's presented to them. So Sharifah, do you have some practical strategies to share?
Yes, I have some strategies that encourage positive behaviors, and I'll be sharing my 5 personal favorites. So starting with the first strategy is to give your child positive attention and spend quality time together. Your relationship is key in guiding your child towards positive behavior. You can build a close connection through reading, making time to play pretend, having walks, and playing together. No matter how busy the day was, spend time every day connecting with your child, even if it's only 10 minutes. So you can use that 10 minutes to encourage your child to pick up a book and read the book together to or with your children. Even when my child, whom are now 10 and 7, I would still spend about 10 minutes in the evening. They will snuggle up on my bed right before bedtime, and we will talk about our day. The second is to be a role model. Use your own behavior to guide your child. For example, if you like to build a bilingual environment, you also need to use the language with your child at home, read mother tongue books, and watch shows in your mother tongue language. Model kindness with simple acts such as holding the lift door for others, clearing the table for the next person. You can also involve your child. For example, when you're at the food court, you can invite your children to help mommy put the bowl back at the tray return area. Or if you like your child to be willing to learn and make mistakes, make and learn from mistakes, share how you have made a mistake and overcome them. When my children were in preschool, I always enjoyed my evening walk back home with them. I used the time to share about my day. There was once I shared a mistake at work and how it has affected me. They were surprised, like, oh, mommy, you made mistakes too. So I assured them that if, as adults, whether you're adult or children, it is human nature to make mistakes. It is important to learn from it and be responsible to accept the consequences. My son then gave me a hug and squeezed my hand. When you share your personal experiences with your child, it actually allows you to connect with your children. Thirdly, is to tell your child how you feel. Telling your child honestly how their behavior affects you helps your child to see their own feelings in yours. Start sentences with I. It gives your child the chance to see things from your perspective. And it's important to remember to talk about feelings when both parent and child are calm. Fourth is to catch your child being good. Give your child positive feedback or praise when your child is showing positive behaviors. For example, you can say, I really like that you are taking turns and sharing your favorite toys with your brother, or thank you for cooperating today. You showered immediately when I reminded you to. Do connect your child with eye contact and a physical touch, like tapping on their shoulder along with the praise. So we talk about connecting with your children, so connecting with them physically as well. Get down to your child's level is our fifth strategy, my fifth favorite strategy. If your child is displaying negative behavior, go down to your child's eye level. If you are standing, bend down, kneel, or sit down to make eye contact with your child. This allows you to get to your child's feeling, to get to your child's level, so that is a balance and respect. You can tune into your child's feeling or thinking when you get down to their level. And it helps them to focus, it helps your child to focus on what you are saying about their behavior and follow your instructions. Shirlee, which strategy do you relate to?
Oh, this is really hard because like all of these strategies are so important. But I think the most the one that I think I would want to use most often and I really practice on a daily basis would be being a role model, a good role model. Because the child looking will then try to see like what this is what we should do during these circumstances. If I want to talk to someone, I've been at that level. I do have the same difficulty. So I think that would be the most important. And I am sure parents will find this list really helpful. And if you forget it, just go back to the list again and then look through it. It'll be reassuring, I think, for parents to know that these tips are actually supported by research and neuroscience. I think many of you would have heard of the left brain and the right brain. You may know that the left brain is about logic, while the right brain is about emotions. The left brain is about text, while the right brain is about images. For children to develop positive behaviors, integration between the two, the left brain and the right brain, is really essential. To put it in simple terms, but we need both sides to work. And when we want to analyze each situation logically, we would also want the child to be able to feel and connect to our personal experiences. It would also be reassuring to know that all the strategies and ideas we have shared till now actually aligns with the key stage outcomes of preschool education in Singapore. So I think it would be helpful not only for educators, but for parents to know that these are the essential outcomes that your child should attain at the end of preschool. Well, you may be surprised actually to see that in this list, we do not see outcomes like the child should be able to count to 1 to 10, the child should be able to write and read letters of the alphabet or read words. That's a very good reason for this because as these positive behaviors set the stage for holistic learning to take place, and it also fosters lifelong learning because with positive behaviors, then and the ability to self-regulate, to deal with difficult situations, the children can then focus on experiences and learning concepts and not to be too affected when things do not go their way.
Absolutely, Shirley. And I think the part about sharing and playing with others, it kind of struck me because that's something that children develop over time. And to be honest, even as adults, some of us don't like to share. So when you often see parents saying to a little, 2-year-old, please share, what does that mean for a 2-year-old? And how do you recommend the best strategy to address the concept of sharing?
Well, for parents, I think like as we understand that the children will have to understand that every child is different. And then we have our own rights, but we must also respect that others have their own rights. So for example, if a friend is saying that, oh, I would like to play longer, we should never ever say, oh no, you must share. Because then the child will feel that, oh, then do I have to give this up right now? So creating the environment that nurtures positive behavior, it doesn't mean that the children will only demonstrate positive behaviors because all these are important. It has to be there. So differences, this is what is like real in life. So beginning with the image of the child will create a conducive environment for the children to learn how to problem solve, to negotiate, to talk to each other, to learn to share. And then this will then foster the development of healthy relationships. And parents and caregivers, I will really urge you to please focus on the successes because I'm sure that the challenging behaviors are just like on some occasions. You would actually have a lot more successes. So you need to remember that. And please see each challenging behavior as opportunities for the child to grow stronger emotionally. You need practice to build the muscles. So that's very important. Remember to focus on the long-term goal, not just at the moment. So of course, as I have explained, we need to survive the moment. but there's a longer term goal that we are trying to achieve. So it's important to remember that. So as inconvenient or distressing as the misbehavior may be, it's also a learning opportunity, actually both for us and the child, because we actually with practice, we get better at helping to nurture these positive behaviors.
Yeah.
So it is really a chance for the child to learn the essential skills like self-regulation, self-control, and we have to be there to support them. So we can't say that, oh, I expect you to do it on your own. That's pretty hard. We need to model, we need to show, we need to give them their words. And we also do not have to be too hard on ourselves, because we do have many opportunities to practice and do better each time. We have to respect that we have our own emotions. Sometimes we are feeling a little upset, then ask for time to be away. Then the child can see that you're modeling that, oh, if I'm upset, I can calm down. I need some time alone. And we often have this saying at school, we say, happy teachers, happy children. So the same applies at homes. Happy parents, happy children.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And also the part about this being a lifelong journey, because as an 18-year-old, they still look at parents as a form of a source of validation. And although a lot of the behavior has already been modeled over a longish period of time, it's a journey that will never end. So I think that's something that we must always remember. It's an incredible sort of honor to be parents. We have that really significant and incredible responsibility to model children's behavior, and we take that we wear that as a badge of honor, and we therefore model behavior for the rest of our lives. It makes us better human beings, doesn't it? So it's something, it's a great way of self-reflection as well, that we model behavior because someone else is looking up to us. So it's a very poignant reminder for us as parents and educators, the kind of role we play in our children's lives. And moving on, I think, to the very important question, especially a question that has come up more recently since the pandemic, is the concept or the question of resilience and grit. And it's not just for children, but even as adults. So resilience, as we know, is the ability to bounce back when you've had a difficult situation. And grit, however, is more long-term, is about that sustained effort towards reaching a certain goal. So resilience is a sort of an attribute for the whole process of grit. So how do we develop these traits in our children? Because again, positive behavior and these very important traits and attributes are very interlinked. So what strategies can parents, educators, and caregivers really employ or deploy to create an environment that supports grit and resilience? Shirlee, would you like to start with that?
Yeah, I think the most important thing for us is we need to understand that while we want children to be successful, we want them to succeed, but they need to understand that the efforts matter. So even if they fail, it's an opportunity for them to learn to get better. We need to celebrate the small wins. So there's this idea, I'm sure a lot of us would know this, is like, not yet. So I'm not able to do this yet, but it doesn't mean that I'm not able to do it like forever. So it is important for children to understand that we celebrate their efforts, to know that, hey, if I'm not able to do it now, whatever I have learned, I do see myself working towards that goal. So that's important. Sharifah, what do you think?
Earlier, you mentioned about happy teachers, happy children. It's a lovely reminder at home as well. Happy parents, happy children. And I've shared earlier about forming connections with your children, and what Shirlee has said. Celebrate small wins with your child. This allows them to feel that their little efforts are actually being acknowledged and appreciated by their parents. For example, when your child has placed the bowl in the kitchen by themselves, give your child a high five. And if the child is able to keep their toys by themselves without any help, allow your child to choose their favorite snack for the day. And to conclude, positive behavior guidance requires consistency from both parents. In order to guide children positively, we also acknowledge that we need to identify triggers for their challenging behavior. Parents need to connect with their child through meaningful and quality interactions. It is not possible to have a perfect child where they are obedient and conform all the time. Children, they go through emotions and developmental milestones. It is our role as adults to guide the children with developmentally appropriate strategies and to reflect on our image of child and shift our perspective from traditional thinking.
Thank you, Sharifah. I like the examples that you gave about how you can encourage positive behavior. And I think it's important for us as parents and adults to understand that. And, even for adults, extrinsic motivation is something that we should avoid. It should be intrinsic. So the gift and the reward versus, punishment, sort of that concept, when it comes to behavior guidance, it's important for us to understand that if you're giving a child a sweet or something that's very obviously a reward at the end of good behavior, that does not create sustainable long-term skills and strategies for positive behavior. So something that's more meaningful, like you said, let's have an additional round of book reading, for example, today, because you've done a great job. You can choose your favorite snack, or a little pat on the shoulder, or a high five. I think these sort of ways in which you acknowledge a child's positive behavior, but not have a reward as a carrot, or dangling a carrot for this behavior. I think it's very important for us to appreciate that and ensure that they therefore develop intrinsic motivation for positive behavior. So moving on to some of the questions, we have a little bit of time to take on the questions that came in through our parents before the webinar. Let's look at something that we haven't addressed so far. Okay, one of the questions was, what are some of the learning experiences that we can offer at home and at school to foster collaboration and open-mindedness when it comes to diversity and dealing with different opinions? Because that's something we deal with every day in our lives, the ability to agree to disagree. So what can you do at home and in school to facilitate this?
Yeah, so we talked a lot about like being a role model, and then having that discussions with an open mind definitely would help the children understand that, oh, so different ideas are valued. So we shouldn't be too quick to brush off certain ideas as is not good. I think if we always have that, so the relationships of having that, okay, so we have established that we can be open about ideas. We can then disagree if we really feel strongly about it, but we can talk about it in a respectful way. I think that would be very important. Fun activity could be like, for example, trying to bring children to places whereby you see people doing things differently. That would help them open up their minds, like, oh, so there are many ways to do something. Bring them to like different festive celebrations. So in Singapore, we are very, very lucky, so we can do that. It actually helps to open minds. So I think the key would be to understand that there's not just one way to do something, and to respect that. So that would be very important, I think.
Thank you. Sharifah, would you like to add?
Earlier, Shirlee shared about doing activities together. I think activities, differing opinions, I think it's important that parents role model celebrating another person's culture, because talking about culture differences opens conversations about how things are different, but we respect that. And one of the activities that you can do together would be, Shirlee has mentioned, to visit museums or attend festivals, gatherings together. And another fun activity that can do together at home is to create simple dishes from another culture together with your child. It opens conversation about the different ingredients used, probably the different cooking techniques. And when you're doing this together, you can talk about how you appreciate another person's culture. So this sets off as conversation topic, and the parent again as a role model.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially dinner time conversations is very, very important. Those are great opportunities for you to unpack some of these questions or observations that your children might have. Moving on to another question. It's about a 2.5-year-old who gets very frustrated easily and throws a tantrum when something doesn't go right. We've discussed tantrum, but I think this question is more on frustration and how quickly that sets in young children. So after a few times, she gives up completely and insists we do it for her. So we've tried to break it into simple steps, but my child still refuses. So any strategies or ideas that this parent could particularly, in this particular instance, deploy to address the situation?
I think this scenario is very familiar to me, and I'm sure for many parents as well when you have a toddler. So the child is 2.5 years old. I would still do it together with your child, because your child is still probably grasping the concept that you want to, or it could be chores, or it could be cleaning up, putting the toys away. 2.5 years, 2.5 years old, do it together with your child at every step. I understand that we probably would like the child to be independent, but sometimes you also need to reflect, is the task developmentally or age appropriate for them? So for example, if you like your child to keep his toys away, do it together with him. Or fixing a puzzle, it could be frustrating, or the parents would like the child to finish the puzzle by himself. At the beginning stage, I would do it together with the child. So maybe the parent can put in one piece and then encourage the child to fix another. So you take turns to complete the puzzle together. I'd also acknowledge his or her feeling. I see that this is hard for you. Shall we do it together? So another common example I see in the classroom is that the child probably might not want to put the shoes himself. So I will do one side for him and encourage him to do the other by himself. The child might continue to refuse further. I would still help him by helping his foot to be in the shoe, and then encourage him to put the strap on. Yeah, so again, it's about celebrating small wins. Small wins towards independence. Eventually, the child will still develop the skills that you would like him to work towards too.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Thank you. Moving on, I think we have time for just one last question. It's about this particular parent who says a child has, she wants a child to develop an understanding of emotional boundaries, because what happens is this child, I'm assuming, is very sensitive, so very often gets influenced by others' emotions that others display. So how does she equip her child to develop strategies to develop his own awareness of his own emotional state and not get so easily influenced by others?
Right. I think the thing is, sometimes we need to look at two sides of things. Because for a child to be affected, that means the child is able to empathize. And sometimes, like, for example, if you watch a movie and we see that the person is feeling sad, we cry. So that we have to acknowledge. I think that's the first thing. But then, of course, we need to help the child then cope with, so what are the strategies for us to feel better? So we often talk about in school, we talk about how can we help your friend feel better? How can we help you feel better? So if a child doesn't have any strategies on their own, so we'll give suggestions like, for example, would you like to take a walk with me? Would you like me to give you a hug? Would you like to drink some water? So something that they can then turn their attention away from that moment. And then we do use stories. So stories actually are very, very helpful. Like, what can we do in certain situations? So this will actually then equip the children with the skills to then understand. So, we are all humans. We get affected by the emotions of others. That's reality. So there's always two sides to things. I really want to say that, because we need to understand, okay, maybe we don't like this side. Oh, you forgot about the other side that you really, really like. So that's important.
I think it's a gift to be sensitive to other people's feelings and
right.
emotions. I think not everyone has that the ability to do so. So it's something, if your child has celebrated, but you're absolutely right as a parent to be worried, because you worry that the child may be taking on too much and is not therefore looking after their own well-being, but you're there for that. And hopefully with time, the child will develop other strategies as well. Okay, I think that's all the time we have today. And I apologize if we couldn't get to all of your questions. But I hope this has sparked off some conversations in your mind and some ideas and strategies in which you can, deploy some of what we've shared in your own home environment. So thank you so much for joining us today, for giving us your lunch hour. We will be sending a recording by email. So if you'd like to listen to it later or unpack it or share it with your friends, please feel free to do so. I also want to put in a plug because we do have this incredible parenting section, which is on our website. So do go into it. You will, as I mentioned, the Parenting 101 ebook and a whole lot of other content, podcasts, webinars, etc., that you can have access to. And also, perhaps if you don't mind, take a minute to complete the feedback form. So that we can later on, we can access your responses and therefore, make our webinars more meaningful and engaging going forward. Before I say my goodbyes, a big thank you to Shirlee and Sharifah. They are very, very busy in their own school environment. So thank you so much for finding the time to share your insights. It's been hugely important. And thank you so much for those very pertinent strategies that you've given us all today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before we end, I would like to invite Iris from the Southwest CDC to share a few words.
Thank you, Bipasha. So I would like to share with everyone here that at the Southwest CDC, right, we have a series of Southwest webinar, which is under our Family Bliss series. So as you can see from the table here, if you're interested, please sign up with us. So to get to know a little bit more about all these webinar series, right, you can actually join our Telegram chat group, which is on this slide itself. So if you have not joined, I highly encourage you to join us so you get to know a little bit about some of our family-centric events in the district, some parenting tips from our community partners, etc. So that's all I have. So thank you once again for joining us during your lunchtime. Take care, stay safe, and happy parenting.
Bye-bye. See you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.